Paperback Reader.
Start off with The Mysterious Island by Jules Verne. I'm a big Jules Verne fan. And that cover art is by Dom Lupo, 1965. On the right is Ace, another Ace book, D245, Off on a Comet. This cover is by Ed Emshwiller. And while I'm at it, I thought I'd show you the Off on a Comet Classics Illustrated by Jules Verne. I always thought this was a great cover. It's an iconic image, and I think it's just fantastic. And another Jules Verne book. This is by Ace. It's Master of the World. And there on the cover is Vincent Price as Robur the Conqueror. This is a combination of both novels. Speaking of Vincent Price, got this great book for Vincent Price. It kind of goes over all the movies he was in, gives a little synopsis. I'll open it up and give you a little sample. Here's The Red Mask of Death. And the movie version of this story has Charles Bronson as the hero. Speaking of Jules Verne, here's Journey to the Center of the Earth, Classics Illustrated. I always loved this cover. And I thought it never got as much respect that it deserves. It's just brilliant. And you probably see now why I'm a Jules Verne fan. So here we go with Sentinels of Space. This cover is by Robert E. Schultz. This is D44, one of the very first Ace books. On the flip side is The Ultimate Invader by Eric Frank Russell and others. Cover here is by Stanley Metzoff from 1954. And here on the right is Tetrasomy 2 by Oscar Roseter. The front cover is by Walter Rain. This is from Ballantine Books, 1975. Here is Ace Book F241, 1963. The Star Bridge by Jack Williamson and James Gunn. James Egan. The cover art is by Ed Valigursky. Then Beyond the Gates of Dream by Lynn Carter. Publisher here is Belmont Tower, 1972. The artist is unknown. Here we have The Jewels of Aptor by Samuel R. Delaney. Then we have Cosmic Engineers by Clifford D. Simak. This is published by Paperback Library, 1968. I could not find any artist information on it. And another Clifford Simak book, Cemetery World. Cover art by Vincent DeFate, don't know how to pronounce that. This is Putnam Publishing, 1973. And Very Funny Charlie Brown by Charles Schultz. Just had this laying around. It didn't get included in the first video. Here we have Ace Book F113 from 1961. It's Rebels of the Red Planet. The cover art is by Ed Valigursky. And on the flip side is 200 Years to Christmas, cover by Ed Valigursky. This is Ace F113. Here's another Andre Norton book, Stargate. The cover art is by John Schoner. This is A78071 from 1969. Up next is Gardner Fox's Escape Across the Cosmos. Cover art by John Schoner. The publisher is Paperback Library. Here is The Crossroads of Time by Andre Norton. Artist unknown. This is Ace F391 from 1966. Here is a book simply called Monsters by A.E. Van Vogt. This is published by the Paperback Library, 1965. These are kind of arranged by Forrest J. Ackerman. Here are 19 Tales of Terror by Whit Burnett. Cover art by Tom Hill. And there's many artists on this one. This is a Bantam book from 1957. Here is Nectar of Heaven by E.C. Tubb. Cover by Ken W. Kelly. 1981. It's from the Demarest series, number 24. Here's another from the Demarest series. It's Engado or Engado by E.C. Tubb again. Cover art by Ken W. Kelly. 1984. This is number 29. And number 30 of that same series. Symbols of Terra by E.C. Tubb. Cover art by Vincent D. Fate. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is also 1984. Number 30 in the series. Here is The Tree Lord of Imatim by Tom Purdon. It's an ace flip book. On the back is Empire Star by Samuel R. Delaney. The Tree Lord of Imatim was cover art by John Schroner, and the Empire Star cover art is by Jack Gauguin. This is Ace M139 from 1966. Then we have an ace book D369, The Changeling Worlds by Kenneth Bulmer. The cover art is by Ed Veligersky. And on the flip side is Vanguard from Alpha by Brian W. Aldiss. Cover art by Ed M. Schweller. This is D369 from 1959. And The Well of the Worlds by Henry Kuttner. The cover art is by Alex Schomburg. This is Ace F344 from 1965. The Worlds of the Imperium by Keith Laumer. Cover art by Ed Veligersky. This is Ace Books M165 from 1967. The Dark World by Henry Kuttner. Cover art by Gray Morrow. This is Ace F327 from 1965. This is Stargate by Andre Norton. Cover by Ken Barr. This is Fawcett Crest Books. This story was also produced by Ace, so I may have that somewhere else. Postmarked The Stars by Andre Norton. Cover by Ken Barr from 1980. Fawcett Crest. And for you Buck Rogers fans, here's Armageddon 2419 AD by Philip Francis Nolan. Cover art by Ed Emshweller. This is Ace F188 from 1963. Storm Over Warlock by Andre Norton. Cover art by Ed Emshweller. Ace F109 from 1961. The Wizard of Lemuria by Len Carter. Front cover by Gray Morrow, 1965. Pawns of Null A by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover art by Ed Valigersky, 1956. And now I'm going to cheat a little bit. I don't have the Amazing Stories Digest to 20 Million Miles to Earth, so I decided to make my own because I found the papers for it on the internet, and I found a good cover image, so I retouched it. Except my back cover, I put a little color in the ad, added a little yellow and blue to the advertisement. but I printed this out from the internet database and made the own cover, and then I printed it and glued it so I could have my own little digest. The Swordsman of Mars by Otis Albert Klein. Cover art by Ed Emshwiller, 1963. Scavengers in Space, written by Alan E. Norse. Cover art is unknown, 1962. The Nemesis from Terra by Lee Brackett. Cover art is unknown on this one. And on the flip side, Collision Course by Robert Silverberg, artist also unknown, from 1961. The Weapon Makers by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover by Jack Gauguin. This is 1966. Here's a Flash Gordon book. I wish I could have had this when I made my first video, Paperback Reader #1, but this is a great novel written by Con Stephenson. The cover is by George Wilson. This is Avon Books, 1974. Battle on Venus by William F. Temple. Cover by Harry Borgum. flip side, The Three Sons of Amara, also by William F. Temple. Cover art here is by Kelly Freas. This is 1973. The Einstein Intersection by Samuel R. Delaney. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. This is Ace F427 from 1967. Another Ace double novel, King of the Fourth Planet by Robert Moore Williams. The cover art is by Ed M. Schweller. This is F149 Ace from 1962. And on the flip side is Cosmic Checkmate by Charles V. DeVette and Catherine McLean. Cover by Ed Valigursky. Galactic Breed by Lee Brackett. The artist is unknown. And we have a note here that this book has been altered by the publisher and cut by approximately 20,000 words. This is Ace Double Book from January 1955, D99. On the flip side is Conquest of the Space Sea by Robert Moore Williams. The cover art is by Ed Valigursky. Here is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is the Pulp Classic series, and they had been doing pretty good as far as reprinting the old classics. I think somebody in the design department said, wouldn't it be really neat if we put him on a motorcycle and gave him a leather jacket? But don't worry, this is the original story by Mary Shelley. Although it is an interesting and whimsical cover, it's the original story from the 1800s. But anyway, a nice little paperback pickup here. The artist on the cover is not credited. And speaking of Frankenstein, here's a nice little black and white illustrated magazine format. The book is approximately 8 by 10 size-wise. That's why I'm having trouble too close to the book. So here's some of the interior artwork. And although this page says written in blood, trust me, I've looked, it's black paper with white ink. Nice interiors here. Introduction by Sterenko. So you might want to check that one out. Pretty cool. Lambda I, Michael Moorcock, George Whitley, John Rackham. Cover art by Brian Aldiss. This is Berkeley, 1964. The Herod Men by Nick Kamen. Cover art by John Schroner. I've mispronounced that name so many times already. And on the back side is Dark Planet by John Rackham. Cover by Jack Gauguin, 1971. No cover art is listed for the Herod Men here. Quest of the Three Worlds by Cordwainer Smith. Cover by Gray Morrow. Ace F402 from 1966. The Arsenal of Miracles by Gardner F. Fox. Cover is uncredited. This is from 1964. And on the flip side is Endless Shadow by John Brunner. Cover by Ed Valigersky. This is Ace F299, 1964. Human Angle by William Tenn. Cover art by Richard Powers. This is Bantam Books, 1957. The Atom Conspiracy by Jeff Sutton. Cover art by Jack Gauguin, 1966. Outside the Universe by Edmund Hamilton. The Black Star Passes by John W. Campbell. Cover by Jerome Podwell, 1965. City of Illusions by Ursula K. Le Guin. Cover by Jack Gauguin, 1967. Planet Big Zero by Franklin Hadley. Cover by Ralph Brillart, Monarch Books. Ralph Brillhart, 1964. Judgment on Janus by Andre Norton. Cover is by Alex Schomburg from 1969. Book of Van Vogt. Cover by Carol Thole, 1972. Hidden Planet by Chad Oliver and others. Cover is by Ed Emshwiller, 1959. Galactic Derelict by Andre Norton. Cover by Davis Meltzer, 1972. Rim of Space by A. Bertram Chandler. And on the flip side, The Secret Agent of Terra by John Brunner. The Invaders from Rigel by Fletcher Pratt. Here's one of the old first ones that Ace made, Salome. My First 2,000 Years of Love. This is Ace D43 from 1953. Cover by George Gagan. Invaders from the Infinite. The cover is by Gray Morrow. This is M154 from 1966. Prelude to Space by Arthur C. Clarke, published by Ballantine. Cover art by Richard Powers. Inside Outside by Philip Jose Farmer. Cover art by Bob Abbott. Ballantine Books, 1964. We, the Venusians. John Rockham. Cover art by Jack Gauguin, 1965. And on the flip side is The Water of Thought by Fred Saberhagen, artist unknown. The The Key to Venudine by Kenneth Bulmer. Cover by Kelly Freas, 1968. And on the flip side, Mercenary from Tomorrow by Mac Reynolds. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. The Search for Z, or Zai. This is from 1963. Cover art by Ed Emshweller. And on the flip side is The House of Z, or Zi, or whatever it's called. Cover by Ed Emshweller as well. This is F249 Ace Double, 1963. Danger from Vega, or Danger from Vega, by John Rackham, cover by Jack Gauguin. This is 1966, and on the flip side, The Clash of Star Kings by Avram Davidson, cover art by Jack Gauguin. So Jack Gauguin did both covers for this book. This is Ace G580. Time in Advance. The Future is Coming by William Tinn. Bantam Books, 1958. Cover art is unknown, but if I had to guess, I would say Richard Powers, but not for sure. And up next is Limbo by Bernard Wolfe. Cover art and the interior illustrations are all by Jack Gauguin. This is 1963. The Door into Summer by Robert A. Heinlein. Cover by Paul Lear, 1959. Beyond Human Kin by Theodore Sturgeon, 1954, cover by Barya Phillips and other artists. Martian Way and Other Stories, Isaac Asimov. Cover art by Richard Powers, 1957. great ace book, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. This is great artwork. I wish I could credit him, but the artist is unknown. And the date is unknown, but I'm going to guess 1961. Dragon's Island, and I have two different copies of this one, but this first one is by Jack Williamson, cover by Earl Berge, produced in 1952. This is Popular Library Publishers. Dragon's Island by Jack Williamson. And then they reissued it a few years later in 1965. Same book, same author, but with different artwork. Artist unknown. Rogue Ship by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover art by Greg Theakston, 1980. Twin Planets by Philip High. Cover by Howard Coslow, 1967. Dwellers in the Mirage by A. Merritt. This is Avon Publishing. The creepy looking octopus there. Artist is uncredited. 1967. The Sword of Lancor by Howard Corey. This is an ace book, F373 from 1966. Cover art by Jerome Podwill. This is Time and Again by Clifford Samack. Cover art by Davis Meltzer, 1975. Three Times Infinity, which is probably a very big number. There's artists in here by Ray Bradbury, Theodore Sturgeon. This is produced by Gold Medallion, which is under Fawcett, 1958. Cover art by Richard Powers. Menace of the Saucers. This is by Yando Binder. Cover art by Jack Ferragasso. Belmont Publishing, 1969. Here's an Edgar Rice Burroughs book, Synthetic Men of Mars, from the John Carter of Mars series by Ballantine. And we have Cycle of Nemesis by Kenneth Bulmer. Another Edgar Rice Burroughs book, The Land That Time Forgot. The Valley of Creation by Andre Norton. By Edmund Hamilton. The Diamond Contessa by Kenneth Bulmer. Cover art by Ken Kelly, 1983. "10 Years to Doomsday" by Chester Anderson and Michael Kurland. Cover art is by Ed Emshwiller. This is a Pyramid book, 1964. Secret of the Sunless World by Carol Capps. Cover art by John Berkey. This is a Dell book from 1969. Colonists of Space by Charles Carr. Cover art by Ward Locke, 1955. Web of Chosen by Jack Chalker. Cover art by Ralph McQuarrie, 1978. Stress Pattern by Neil Barrett Jr. Cover art by Josh Kirby, 1974. Warrior of Larn by Gardner Fox. Cover art by Frank Frazetta. This is Ace F307 from 1964. Beyond Heaven's River by Greg Bear. Cover art by Charles Moll, M-O-L-L, from Dell, 1980. And here's a Galaxy pulp I have. Couldn't resist the cover. I think that's going to hurt in the morning for that poor guy. And most pulps have a few good illustrations in them. I struggled to find any illustrations in this book except for this, maybe. Space Relations by Donald Barr. Cover art by Larry Krisek. This is a Fawcett book, 1975. This is Space Scavengers, not to be confused with the Scavengers of Space, which I believe I showed you earlier. This is by Cleve Cartwell from Major Books, 1975. Six Worlds Beyond, it's an anthology of many different authors, 1958. Produced by Crest Books. I can find no cover art credit. Beyond the Stars by Ray Cummings. This is an Ace book, F248, from 1963. Did I mention I'm a Jules Verne fan? Here's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a Scholastic Library edition. Pretty nice artwork. Of course, for the best art for this story, you have to see the Classics Illustrated cover. There's so much to look for in that one. The Lord of Death and the Queen of Life. This is Ace F345 by Homer Eon Flint. And right next to it, I'm going to put Our Army at War. It's a DC Special Digest book. Recently picked up. The back cover is pretty cool. Another Edgar Rice Burroughs book, The Land That Time Forgot. In my next paperback video, I'll be doing a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs books. So in the meantime, I had another copy of Tarzan and the Castaways. I think you saw that last time as well. And The Land of Terror. So I will put these with my Edgar Rice Burroughs books, and probably the next episode will be entirely Edgar Rice Burroughs. Here is Lady Godiva and Master Tom. The cover art is by Van Kaufman. This is from 1949, and it does have cover illustrations. Or excuse me, it has interior illustrations. Andre Norton is Secret of the Lost Race, an ace book. Cover art by Ed Valigursky. Invasion from Mars. These were selected by Orson Welles. Cover art is by Malcolm Smith. 1949 Dell. With the back cover map. Spartan Planet by A. Bertram Chandler. Cover is by John Berkey. This is Dell, 1969. Another ace book, Rogue Dragon. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. The World Swappers by John Brunner. Cover art by Kelly Freas. Spatial Delivery by Gordon R. Dixon. And on the flip side, Delusion World by Gordon R. Dixon. Cover art by Ed Valigursky, 1961. Here's an ace double, The Chariots of Ra. Cover art by Kelly Freas. And on the back, Earth Strings. This cover is by David Plourde, 1972. The Forgotten Planet by Murray Leinster, cover by Robert E. Schultz. This is Ace D528 from 1963. Trader's Legion by J. Scotland. It's from 1965, artist unknown. Terminal Beach by J.G. Ballard. Cover art is by Richard Powers. This is a Berkeley book from 1964. Skylark 3 by E.E. Smith. I don't know the cover art. The Light of Lilith, cover art by Ed Emshwiller. And on the flip side, The Sun Saboteurs, written by Damon Knight, cover by Ed Valigursky from 1961. The Quest of the Three Worlds by Cordwainer Smith. Cover by Gray Morrow. The Great Stone of Sardis by Frank Stockton, 1976. The World of Null A, written by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover illustration by Ed Emshwiller. An Ace book from 1964. The Long Loud Silence. Read this book and find out how silence can be loud. Written by Wilson Tucker, cover art by Richard Powers. This is a Dell book. Glory Road by Robert A. Heinlein. Cover art by Paul Lear. Avon Books, 1964. And Theodore Sturgeon's The Synthetic Man. Cover art by John Schoner from 1967. Earth's Last Fortress by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover art by Ed Emshwiller. And on the flip side, Lost in Space by George O. Smith. Cover by Ed Valigursky. This is Ace D431, 1960. Here is Day World, and I'm cheating because this is a hardback book by Philip Jose Farmer. Thought I'd throw this in here real quick in case Howler Mouse is watching. Cover art by Don Ivan Punchatz. (1985), Putnam Publishing. The Seed of Earth by Robert Silverberg. Cover art by Edward Valigursky. And on the flip side is Next Stop the Stars, also by Robert Silverberg. Cover art by Ed Emshwiller. This is Ace F145 from 1962. This is The Psionic Menace by Keith Woodcock. Cover art by Ed Emshwiller. Yeah, this guy better take the vaccine and mask up. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. And on the flip side, Captives of the Flame. Cover by Jack Gauguin. This is Ace F199 from 1963. Here's a Dell book, Slan, or Sling, I don't know how to pronounce it. A.E. Van Vogt. Cover art by the great Richard Powers. 1953. The Altar of Ascanel by John Bruner. Cover art by Gray Morrow. This is an Ace double book, M123 from 1965. And on the flip side, it's Android Avenger by Ted White. Cover is by Ed Valigursky. And earlier I showed you Star Bridge. It just dawned on me I have 2 copies of that. So. Here is the Einstein intersection. The cover art is by Jack Gauguin from 1967. And I believe earlier I showed the other copy I have. This is an Ace book, The Einstein Intersection. Echo X by Ben Barsman. This is Paperback Library. Cover art is by Bob Abbott, 1962. Time Twister by Emil Pataja. Cover art by Jack Gauguin, 1968, Dell. The Day of the Star Cities by John Brunner. Cover art by Jack Gauguin, 1965. And here is Fantasy and Science Fiction, a little pulp digest. The Wizard of Lynn by A.E. Van Vogt. Cover art by Ed Veligersky. This is an Ace book, F-154, 1962. And The Rebellious Stars by Isaac Asimov. Cover by Ed Veligersky. It's an Ace double book. January 1954. On the reverse is Rebellious. Nope. On the reverse is An Earth Gone Mad by Roger D. Cover by Ed Veligersky. The Puppet Masters by Robert A. Heinlein. Cover by Stanley Meltzoff, 1958. Man of Two Worlds. Cover by John Schoner. This is a Pyramid book, 1963. The Road to the Rim by A. Bertram Chandler. Cover is by Jerome Podwell. On the flip side, The Lost Millennium. Cover art here is by Jack Gauguin from 1967, an Ace double. Bow Down to Null by Brian Aldiss. Cover by Ed Emshwiller. This is an Ace double book from 1960. And on the flip side is The Dark Destroyers. Cover art here is by Ed Emshwiller. This is an Ace double book from 1960. And on the flip side is The Dark Destroyers. This is an Ace double book from 1960. And on the flip side is The Dark Destroyers. by Manly Wade Wellman. Cover art is by Ed Valigursky. A Man Called Destiny. Cover by Ed Valigursky from 1958. On the flip side, Stepsons of Terra. And being stepsons, you know they're going to get blamed for everything. That cover is by Ed M. Schweller. This is Ace D311 from 1958. Worlds for the Taking by Kenneth Bulmer. This is an Ace book from 1966. Cover by Hoot von Zitzwitz. Who Goes There? This is a Dell book by John W. Campbell Jr. Cover art is by Richard M. Powers. This is Dell 1955. Islands of Space by John W. Campbell. Cover art by McKeon from 1966. Sorceress of the Witch World by Andre Norton. This is an Ace book, 1970, cover by Jeff Jones. And Andre Norton wrote a lot of books about the Witch World. This is cover art by Jack Gauguin from 1963. The Mightiest Machine by John Campbell. Cover by Jerome Hodwell, 1965. And another Edgar Rice Burroughs book, Savage Pellucidar. The Voices of Time by J.G. Ballard. Cover art by Richard M. Powers. This is a Medallion Berkeley book from 1962. Planets in Peril by Edmund Hamilton. Cover art by Johnny Bruck. Popular Library, 1969. The X Factor by Andre Norton. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. This is an Ace book, G646 from 1967. Star Swarm by Brian Aldiss. A Signet book from 1964. Artist unknown. It looks like he was having a bad day. Monsters in Orbit by Jack Vance. This is an Ace double book, cover art by Jack Gauguin. Ace M125 from 1965, and on the flip side, The World Between, also by Jack Vance. Simulacron 3 by Daniel F. Galloway, 1964. Dark Universe by Daniel F. Galloway, cover art by Mitchell Hooks, 1961. The Haunted Stars by Edmund Hamilton, cover art by V. Kadinsky. This is a Pyramid book, 1962. Far and Away by Anthony Boucher. It's a Ballantine book. Cover art by Richard M. Powers, 1959. Sands of Mars by Arthur C. Clarke. Cover art by Robert Schultz. Hellflower by George O. Smith. Cover by Bill Rose. Pyramid Books, 1958. Inherit the Earth, cover art by Ted Hincke, or Hank. This is a 1966 Ace double. On the flip side is The Dawnman Planet, cover by Jack Gauguin. I Want the Stars, cover art and interior illustrations by Ed Emshwiller. This is an Ace double book, 1964. On the flip side is Demon's World by Kenneth Bulmer. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. Children of the Atom. Cover by Richard M. Powers. Avon book, 1958. Three Worlds of Futurity. Cover by Jack Gauguin. This is an Ace double, M105 from 1964. On the flip side, Message from the Eocene by Margaret St. Clair. Cover by Jack Gauguin. The Star Mill by Emil Pataja. Cover art by Jack Gauguin. This is an Ace book, 1966. Ace double book, The 1,000-Year Plan by Isaac Asimov. No artist known. On the flip side, No World of Their Own by Poul Anderson, 1955. Here is Dre Prescott, number 23, Beasts of Antares. The Lost World by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the great writer that gave us Sherlock Holmes. Unfortunately, the artist is unknown on this, but this is from around 1965, I believe. The Coils of Time by A. Bertram Chandler. On the flip side, Into the Alternate Universe by A. Bertram Chandler. This is an ace double M107 from January 1964. The Plot Against the Earth by Calvin M. Knox. This is Ace D350 from 1959. On the flip side, Recruit for Andromeda by Milton Lesser. Six Worlds Yonder by Eric Frank Russell. Ace Double Book from 1958. On the flip side, The Space Willies by Eric Frank Russell as well. Adventures into the Far Future. Ace Double Book D73 from January 1954. On the flip side, Tales of Outer Space by Multiple Offers, January 1954. Masters of Evolution by Damon Knight. This is an ace double. D375 from 1959. On the flip side, Fire in the Heavens by George O. Smith. The Pirates of Zan by Murray Leinster. This is an ace double book D403 from January 1959. And on the flip side, The Mutant Weapon. The Earth in Peril. This is Ace D205 from 1957. Selected authors like Van Vogt. And on the flip side, Who Speaks of Conquest by Ian Wright, 1957. The Mechanical Monarch by E.C. Tubb. This is Ace Doubles D266 from January 1958. And on the flip side, Twice Upon a Time. Empire of the Atom by A.E. Van Vogt. And on the flip side, Space Station Number 1. This is January 1957. And that concludes this edition of Paperback Reader number 3. Wanted to end with a bunch of ace double-sided. So my next Paperback Reader video will be about Edgar Rice Burroughs. So I hope you enjoy that. Until next time, thank you for watching.